To understand the responsibilities of the deacons, it's important that we understand and look at why this role, why this office was originally established. And I believe that we see this in Acts 6. Now, I will say this, that the title deacon is not used here for the men who are chosen. That has caused some debate within the theological community. And some say, well, these men weren't really the first deacons chosen. This was the first church committee. Well, be that as it may, that's sort of an intramural debate among theologians. It's not one that really causes a lot of disagreement and dissension. But let me tell you why I think these are the first deacons. I believe that these are the first deacons because of what they are called to do. You see, there is a complaint about the service in the church. Who is getting service and who is not? There were needs that needed to be met in the church. And the 12 apostles came together. They were the leaders of the church. They called the assembly together and they made an important statement. And effectively what they said was that they have an important job to do. What was their job? Their job was the preaching of the Word. Now, I've heard a lot of people make fun of my job. And they'll say, boy, I wish I was a preacher like you. I could only work 2 days a week. And of course, most people are being facetious when they say things like that. They're just being humorous. But I think, too, that there is a lot of misunderstanding about what the role of the pastor is. You know, I think that in times past, we've really misunderstood the job of the elder teacher, the job of the pastor teacher. Because the primary role of the pastor teacher, as I've been teaching you the last few weeks, is to study, pray, and teach the Word. Now, there are other things that we do. We make calls upon those who are sick, and we visit, and we do the things that are necessary for the ministry. But yet, at the same time, our primary job is to handle this Word correctly, to study, to show ourselves approved, that we might rightly divide the Word. And this is what the elders were saying. The elders were, the apostles rather, were saying that we have the primary role of Bible teachers. And to do that, we need to have the opportunity, the time to do that. We cannot come away from that job to serve tables. And somebody might say, well, did they think they were too good to serve tables? No. I'm not too good. No pastor's too good to mop a floor or clean a toilet or anything else. We're not too good. But we're called to a task, to study the Word, to know the Word, to teach the Word. That's the job that we're called to do. And the apostles saw their job as that. They saw their primary task as that. And as a result, they called the assembly together. They said, nominate from within your ranks 7 men, that we might examine them. We might commission them to serve you in our stead, to serve you in our place, to be what we would be to you. If we were not dedicated to this service of the Word, we would be this to you. Nominate from among yourself 7 men to serve you. And they were to not just be 7 men, that the first 7 that they came to, but they were to be 7 men of good reputation. 7 men full of the Spirit. And 7 men who were wise. These only would qualify as those who would be able to serve the church instead or in lieu of the elders. And that's where the responsibility of the deacons begins to come into focus when we start to see their relationship to the role of elders. We've noted over the last few weeks that the responsibility of the elders is what? To do 4 things. To protect the flock. To, what's the next one? Feed the flock. And the next one, to lead the flock. And then the fourth one is to meet the practical needs of the flock. Any one of those would be a demanding task, and the elder has a responsibility to fulfill them all. So then how does the elder accomplish all that needs to be done? Through the ministry of the deacons. The deacons are the ministers of the church. Did you know that? You know, oftentimes I'm called minister. I talked about this in Sunday school this morning. How it's very common to call a pastor your minister, right? That's a very common phrase. But the word minister comes from the word deacon. The deacons are the ones who are ministering within the church. And the elder comes from the word that means what? Overseer. To ensure that the ministry is going according to Scripture. So because of that, making a list of making a list of deacon responsibilities is almost impossible. Because the responsibilities of the deacon is to serve the church in whatever the church needs to be served in. And because the church is a living body, not a lifeless entity, the needs of the church grow and change over time. I can tell you, I've been in this church 20 years, haven't I? I've been here since I was 8. I'm 29 years old. I've been here 21 years, if that's the right math. You guys know I don't like math. So I've been here 21 years. And you know what? In 21 years, I have seen the needs of the church change drastically. I've seen the needs of the church change almost every year. Not drastically, but over 4 or 5 years of time as those needs change. It is a drastic change over years. And that's why I say the deacons, there cannot be a list. Because that list will ever change with the needs of the church. There will always be a need for hospital calls, but there may come a time when that need is greater and other times when that need is not so great. The building will always need maintenance, but there will be times when it needs more maintenance and times when it needs less. There will always be the need to assist those in the congregation who have needs, but there will also be times when those needs rise up and those needs are not as great. Ultimately, the responsibilities of the deacon are not as clearly enunciated in Scripture as those of the elder, and I believe that is by design. I do not think the Lord wanted this position to be, for lack of a better term, pigeonholed. I believe that this position is clearly stated in the broad title of servant. The deacon is to serve the church wherever, however, the church needs to be served. In the end, they are the need fillers of the church. They are the need fillers of the church. When there's need for a person to be visited, they fill the need. When there's need for preparation, assistance for a grieving family who might need anything, whether it be food or assistance or just help, they are there to fill the need. When there is a need to mop a floor or trim a tree, they fill the need. That's why I believe that a person has to be just as gifted to be a deacon as you have to be an elder. Because it takes a gifted person to be a need filler. It really does. It takes a gifted person to see needs that need to be filled and just reach out and do it. It takes initiative. It takes God on their heart encouraging them to fill those needs. The God-inspired desire is an indication, in my mind, of a person's call to the role of deacon. That they have a desire to serve God's church in whatever, however, that church needs to be served. That is the primary responsibility of the deacon. And it's simple. That's not hard to understand. That's something that I want all of us to understand today. That when we went over the responsibilities of the elders, we went over these 4 things. We talked about protecting, feeding, leading, meeting the needs. And then we come to deacon, and it's like, what is the responsibility? Need filler. That's the responsibility. That's their job.